So, if we're interested in an efficient system, you want Social Security. If you want to make people in the financial sector rich, well, you want to privatize Social Security. Whatever you earn above 175,000 isn't subject to the tax. So you have people that earn 10 million, 20 million, 30 million, they're paying no more in taxes, Social Security taxes, than the person earning 175,000. You're talking about paying, maybe 40, 50, 60 times as much in administrative cost with a privatized system.
I'm a stern defender of Social Security on my channel. People who watch know that I talk about it constantly. And I saw when I was looking through your articles that you had written a couple articles about it. So I wanted to bounce a couple questions off you to maybe get some answers from a more qualified position. The first one is the main, scare that you hear when people are saying it's running out, we won't get benefits. Could you describe, like, and obviously 2034 is the year that people say, can you describe why, like what actually happens in 2034? Is the scare any bit genuine? Can you kind of detail that?
Yeah, sure. And I'll just say I've been a huge supporter of Social Security, forever. It's a great program. But the story, Social Security is dependent on its trust funds, a designated tax. So we all pay 6.2% of our wages. Our employer pays 6.2%. So a total of 12.4% of our wages go into the Social Security trust fund. It built up a huge surplus in the 80s, 90s, the zeros. That was when all the baby boomers were still in the workforce. Since I think it was 223, they began to pay down, actually sell off the bonds. And we're in that process now. And when we get to 233, 234, depending on the projections, that will be depleted. So we'll no longer have this reserve that we could draw on in the trust fund. Now we'll still be getting roughly 80% of benefits and taxes. I think 77% is the exact number. So we'd still be paying the vast majority of benefits, even if we did nothing. Again, now I don't consider it acceptable that we'd be cutting benefits in that story by 23%. I don't consider that acceptable. But as an economic matter, we could easily afford to make up that gap. So what's going on? What's going on now is we're paying the money to beneficiaries based in part on, we have these bonds, so trust fund has bonds, and we're saying, okay, we're selling off the bonds. Economically, nothing changes when we don't have those bonds. So to say we couldn't afford it, that's just a lie. So that would be a political decision. Now, I do think there was value in tying the benefit to the tax and saying, okay, we're going to rely on the trust fund. But a big part of the story as to why the trust fund is facing problems is this upward redistribution of income that we were talking about. So you go back to 1982, the last time there was a major restructuring of the program, only 10% of wage income went above the cap on Social Security taxes. It's currently, I think, 175,000.
Yep.
So whatever you earn above 175,000 isn't subject to the tax. So you have people that earn 10 million, 20 million, 30 million, they're paying no more in taxes, Social Security taxes, than the person earning 175,000. So it used to be only 10% went above that cutoff. Now it's close to 20. That's a big source of the shortfall. The other major source, the redistribution from wages to profits, because again, we're not paying Social Security taxes on, say, dividend income, interest income, capital gains. We're not paying taxes on that. We could increase the tax. We could raise the cap or eliminate the cap. I mean, those are policies we should be talking about. We have talked about them, but they've been blocked for obvious reasons. So we could get more money into the trust fund, but you have a lot of people that really are very active, very open, in fact, in trying to undermine the program. And they don't want to see more money go in the trust fund, and they certainly don't want to see money paid out of general revenue. But again, that's all politics. That's got nothing to do with the economics.
It becomes a political thing where one side doesn't want it to be an effective program. So even like things that could be quick fixes to the gaps, like I talk about raising the tax on the income limit, because as you said, as time goes on, more and more income is hoarded above that limit. So less people are subject to that tax. So we'll have less revenue.
Yeah, I just want to do a little more spiel on Social Security, because when you get people talking about efficiency like Elon Musk, you can't do better than Social Security. I mean, when he sent his Doge team in there, we're going to fix things. 20 million dead people are getting. Those were all lies,
Yeah.
just all complete lies. There was a fix that they had, because they have an old computer system. No one disputes that. So they had a fix where they just had people their birthdays at crazy numbers, so they wouldn't get benefits.
Yes.
And Musk saw this and go, oh my God, we have all these people that were born in, 1907 and they're getting, they weren't getting benefits. That was the whole point. I'd say it's a tremendously efficient program. It's provided enormous security to at this point, hundreds of millions of people over, 8 decades now. And the idea that, we'd look to get rid of it as some archaic relic is garbage.
The last question I had on it was, what do you think about the people who say privatize it, or we should have people invest their money instead rather than Social Security? What's your pushback to that?
Well, there's 2 points I'd make on that. One is that they always have these fairy tale stories of the sorts of returns you get. And, again, a lot depends. We could look historically. That's not a point you could argue over. We know what returns have been. But the question is, what will returns be going forward? Currently, the stock market has a price to earnings ratio of almost 40. And I played this game with people. I go, okay, write down for me. You want to say we're going to get 7% real returns. What does that look like? What will the price to earnings ratio be in 20, 30, 40 years if we got those? And you'd get crazy numbers because we have projections for profit growth. So you can give me a different number about projections for profit growth, but no one thinks those are plausible. So if we use the projections that, the Congressional Budget Office uses, that the Social Security trustees use, you could not get 7% real returns over the next, 20, 30, 40 years. You can do anything next year, but 20, 30, 40 years, no, you can't do that. Private accounts are massively more expensive than Social Security. The administrative cost, and this isn't my estimate, any number of people come up with comparable numbers, they average over 1% a year. Social Security, the administrative costs are 0.4%. Now you go, okay, 0.4%, 1%, 2.5 times, not a big deal. That's wrong. That's 1% per year. So you have to compare apples to apples. So I open up my 401k when I'm 20, 25, whatever. I'm putting money in it year after year after year. I start to take it out when I'm 65 or 70, whatever. It's been sitting there for 40, 45 years. I've paid that 1% every single year. So not all the money's there for all 45 years, but say half of it is. So you've paid 1% for 20 years on average. That's 20%. Then on top of that, you have to buy an annuity if you want to make it comparable to Social Security, because this is a big point. We don't know how long we're going to live. We all want to live a long life. Maybe we will, maybe we won't. But you want to make sure your money's there as long as you live. Well, Social Security does that for you. No extra charge. Okay, do that to go to an insurance company and say, give me an annuity, no charge. Go, what? And the fees they charge for annuity, 5, 10%, sometimes more. So you're talking about paying, maybe 40, 50, 60 times as much in administrative cost with a privatized system as you do on Social Security. So, if we're interested in an efficient system, you want Social Security. If you want to make people in the financial sector rich, well, you want to privatize Social Security. And I think that pretty much tells you the whole story.